Mr. Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just pick up on those last comments. I want to talk about a low point. How about Mr. Papadopoulos pled guilty, Mr. Manafort convicted, pled guilty to 2 other charges, Mr. Gates pled guilty, Mr. Flynn pled guilty, Mr. Pinedo pled guilty, Mr. Van der Zwaan pled guilty, Mr. Kalimnik indicted for obstruction of justice. And for 2 years, you want to talk about an agenda, my friends on the other side of the aisle refused to bring any of these people up before the committee. So today, for the first day, we have one witness who voluntarily is coming forward to testify. Your side ran away from the truth, and we're trying to bring it to the American people. So, Mr. Cohen,
Sir.
First of all, thank you for voluntarily coming before the committee to testify. I want to ask you about your statements regarding Trump Tower in Moscow, and I want to drill down some of the facts and details. Now, you may not be aware of it, but this goes back a ways. Back in 1987, Mr. Trump wrote that he had had ongoing discussions with Soviet officials back then to build a large luxury hotel across from the Kremlin in partnership with the Soviet Union. So at that time, it was the Soviet Union. I want to ask you, in your filing with the special counsel Mueller's office, the prosecutors wrote, and I quote, Mr. Cohen discussed the status and progress of the Moscow project with individual 1 on more than the 3 occasions Mr. Cohen claimed to the committee, and he briefed family members of individual 1 with the company about the project. I know this is redundant, but Mr. Cohen, who are we referring to here when we refer to individual 1?
Donald J. Trump.
Okay, and the company?
The Trump Organization.
Okay.
Through a subsidiary.
Okay. And who were the family members that you briefed on the Trump Tower Moscow project?
Don Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump.
Okay. Now, were these in the regular course of business, or did the president or family request the briefings?
This is the regular course of business.
Do you recall, there's a question on the number of briefings. Do you recall how many there might have been?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do you recall how many of these briefings there might have been?
Approximately 10 in total.
All right. In your written remarks, you also wrote, and I quote, there were at least a half-dozen times between the Iowa caucus in January 2016 and the end of June when Mr. Trump would ask me, how's it going in Russia, referring to the Russia Moscow Tower project. How did the president communicate those questions to you? Was it verbally or the phone?
Verbally, most of the time, or virtually all of the time. He would say to me, Michael, come walk with me. He was heading to, let's say, a rally, to a car, and as I would walk him to the elevator, he would ask me questions quickly regarding a series of
Could there be any
issues.
doubt about what he was referring to in terms of the project in Russia?
No, this would be it.
Okay.
Otherwise, there would have been no reason to ask it of me.
Right, right. You also wrote, and I quote, to be clear, Mr. Trump knew of and directed the Trump-Moscow negotiations throughout the campaign and lied about it, close quote. How did the president actually direct the negotiations? What details did he direct?
Well, after each communication that I had, I would report back to him, and our goal was to get this project. We were interested in building what would have been the largest building in all of Europe. You know, sir, just if I can say one last thing in regard to the gentleman's statement, since this is on topic. The lies that I told to Congress, in fairness, benefited Mr. Trump. It was in furtherance of my protection of Mr. Trump, which I stated in my testimony. And I am not protecting Mr. Trump anymore. And so, while I truly appreciate taking some of your time onto it, to attack me every single time about taxes, I have no credibility. It's for exactly that reason that I spent the last week searching boxes in order to find the information that I did, so that you don't have to take my word for it. I don't want you to. I want you to look at the documents,
Mr. Cohen,
and I want you to make your own decision.
I need my last 10
Sorry,
minutes.
sir.
That's okay. Let me just say, I don't think my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are afraid that you're going to lie. I think they're afraid you're going to tell the truth.
Thank you, sir.
I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gosar.